Good morning again. I know everyone is expecting me to come with puppets, and all of them went to visit their mothers. I'm like, what's the deal? Jasmine thought about coming because she wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to her mother over, the Zoom thing. And I'm like, yeah, but then you wouldn't get to see your mother. She's like, okay. So she went to visit her mom. So I know. But they all send their love. Yeah, exactly. I will let them know. Puppet love to everyone, exactly. When I was growing up, I would watch my mother play her mother role. And based on what I saw her do, I did not want to be a mother. I didn't even want to be a woman for that matter. Because in 1960 and 1970, all the women I knew were stay-at-home moms who cleaned the house, who cooked the meals, prepared school lunches for the kids, ironed the shirts for the dad, and sometimes she had some extra time on her hands, and so she would read. There was nothing about any of that looked interesting to me. I like to read, sort of, but I'm not a reader. I'm a doer. I want to get things done. And I realized the role is really important, and my mom did it very well, but I did not see myself being excited about spending my life doing that. Fortunately for me, as I got older, more and more women went into the workforce, and so I got to entertain that of being able to go into a career that I enjoyed. So I went on to seminary, got a master's degree in that, and did youth ministry for a lot of years. But the task of being a mother was not so interesting. So I started looking at other mothers. And so the first thing I want to talk about is Mother Wolf. Now, I read a book called The Alpha Female Wolf, The Fierce Legacy of Yellowstone's 06. And this is the wolf that was actually got a lot of attention. So 06, I think they named her 06, if what I'm recalling, is because that's the year she was born. But a lot of the wolves, they tag them, they put a collar on them. When they collar them, they do give them a number. But she got 06 because of the year that she was born. But by reading this book, and it's this group of people that have run around Yellowstone for years, ever since they brought the wolves back into Yellowstone, and watching the behavior and learning from them, and you're realizing how much we didn't actually know about wolves. And so these books, there's several of them that, his name is McIntyre. I'm going to get his first name again. Rick McIntyre. And so he and several of the people, but his books I really like. And so just the stories of this one, more particularly of 06, and how she grew up and her pack. But things that stood out in this book were that alpha females are the leaders of the pack, by the way. They wear the pants, and I hate that phrase, but I still wanted to use it. And the pack's main purpose is to raise and protect their wolf pups, because that's what protects the packs. And so they protect each other, but that whole thing, everything they do is around establishing the right den. How do we raise them? How do we keep them? And their biggest enemy is other wolf packs, is what they're actually having to protect them from. And so even when you have a pack, there's always going to be members of that pack that will leave and find a partner or a mate and start their own pack. And if one of the alpha males or females passes away, and those are the only two that breed in a pack, if one of them gets killed or passes away, then like if the alpha male's left, he'll pick another alpha female, or if the male dies, then the alpha female will pick another alpha male. And so that's how those packs stay together like that. So there are some that say, hey, phooey for this, I'm leaving and start my own pack, right? Well, 06 kind of did that, and she left when she was actually kind of young. She was raised by her mother's sister, though, because her mother died when she was a pup. And so her aunt became the alpha female for that pack. But 06 left her pack kind of early on, and she roamed on her own for a while, for a season, which is a long time for a wolf, before finding an alpha male. But during this time, they noted that she could grab like a full-on elk and take it down by herself. She was so fierce and so strong and so determined. There's the things that she did that were so amazing to people, and that's why she started to catch their attention. But then the next thing she went and did is she found her alpha males. She picked a pair of brothers to be her alpha males. And that's very, 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 very unusual, right, to pick a pair. But there was a strategy to what she was doing as you watched her, raise her packs. And so to bring this pair of brothers along actually was really fruitful for her in the long run. It was interesting. She was actually very intelligent, and she usually outsmarted the enemy packs rather than tried to fight them. And I'm going to give you a couple little stories. But one of the coolest parts to this story that I loved was the fact that the way she ran her pack, raised her pups, was very similar to what her mother did. And that's what they started noticing, characteristics of the mother of a pack and how they raised the pack, that the daughters that went on actually took those characteristics with them. So again, learning that. So you would have 06 was maybe much more diplomatic than the leader of the Molly's pack, where it was just a ruthless pack and they just wanted to go out and kill other wolves. But that's not how 06 ran her pack. 06 was very tactical. She was diplomatic and strategic in her methods about hunting, addressing rival packs, and keeping her pups and her pack safe. She avoided skirmishes when possible, and she used a variety of non-confrontational methods to protect her pups. And so one of the examples that I love is that, even when she picked a den, that was so you're interesting. That's like what went into picking a den for the pups. And she had picked a den. This is her second litter of pups. And she picked one that had been known to that the bears couldn't get into. So she's thinking not only, wolf packs, but also bears. So there's this pile of rocks, and be able to get into this pile of rocks, and the bears that's not something bears could get into. So she'd done that. And then at some point, the Molly pack decides to come over and raid her after this is her second year of pups, right? They're going to come over and raid her den. So what she does is her first year pup, she has a pup that's 1 year old that is super fast. And so she sends her off to take off in one direction. So some of the Molly pack thinking, okay, we're going to take off after her. This is where the people are watching this and going by callers, so they don't know what's going to be the result. They just know at some point she sends off, they take her, she takes off. Some of them take off of her. 06 takes off in another direction and goes into a section where only she knows how to get down like these cliffs and stuff. The other wolves can't do it. So she's created some places where she can get away from them. And she uses the street several times where she's along the street because she can navigate the cars with no problem, but the other wolves are not sure what to do with that. And so she uses things like that to get away. Meanwhile, the two, you realize the two alpha males are back at the entrance of the den, but we don't know what's happening there. So at some point, when we find out that she gets back to the den, and the people are looking, they never accessed the den. Those two alpha males kept Molly's pack at bay. She got it. She was fine, and she came back, but you don't know what happened to her other daughter, right? Pretty soon in the evening, she comes back. And so it's like this whole thing about strategizing to protect her pups. And she was so good at it that every single litter that she had, their pups made it through the very first year. Every pup made it through the first year, which is not something that happens. And so she was so good at that. And so I think of her, a mother. She was a successful mother because she was powerful and she was loving. As you could see the part where she was compassionate and cared for her pups, that always showed, that always shows up. But the fact that she was strategic and she was protective and she was smart, it's like you realize they're using their brains, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, motherhood is actually kind of interesting. Because now I'm using my brain to be strategizing. There's not a lot of brain work that goes into ironing a shirt. Maybe the first one or the second one, but by the third one, you can be going like this, flip it over, whatever. So I realized that the whole thing about, mothering, what I saw my mother doing, I just didn't see much brain stuff going on there. Not saying that she wasn't using her brain. I'm just saying as a kid, what I saw, right? So just the mother wolf idea, just this powerful, protective, strategic part of motherhood that I love to see humans embrace more and more. And it's not a power over male or female or non-binary folks. It's not a power over others. It's just to be able to embrace that we all have this power within us, whether we're male, female, or non-binary. So with that, I want to turn to Mother Earth. I didn't say Mother Nature because that's more unpredictable. I didn't want to talk about unpredictability. Mother Earth. Do you ever watch the Planet Earth series? I love that series. And because with what they can do with cameras now and the drones and the footage they get I love animals and wildlife and stuff like that. But so I just am always amazed how they can get in and they stay with a pack or the polar bears and their little cubs or whatever they're doing. And I love the ocean ones, right? Because I can't just go walking by the ocean and see what's going on down there like you can when you're walking through the woods. I've seen bears and things like that, right? But so I love the ocean ones where you get to know more about the whales and the sharks and even the weird looking creatures at the bottom. Just so interesting, right? But the thing that always grabs me when I think about, when I'm thinking about like Mother Earth, is that there's a balance. There has to be a balance when you're talking about, you think about the ocean, it's kind of its own little world. And there's a balance that's between who eats who and how many of what exists. And who the apex people are, the apex creatures are, on the food chain. And that we found that sometimes when you lose something, like we're taking the salmon out or we're losing the salmon, that all of a sudden it's having an impact on the lives of orcas. And so we have lost creatures, but as we lose them, the system rebalances itself. It always comes back to some kind of balance. So when we lose one species, we may lose several other ones to go with it until the balance comes back where people are, the animals and nature and stuff learn how to live together. So both on land and sea, that happens. And so that whole thing about just balance and working towards a balance. And the beauty of balance is that there's room for everyone. When we try to balance living together, everyone can thrive. So the idea of mothering as balancing what we have. This is the one story I'm going to tell you about Jasmine that told me about her mom. She wanted to say. She said, because she's a dancer, right? So she's like, I know all about balance, right? I don't know how to use her voice, but I know all about balance because she's a dancer. And she's like, if I fall off or I'm doing something weird, I know about balance. And I said, well, what about your mother? And she said, well, with my mother, my mother was not balanced. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. She goes, well, my mother, she worked so hard. She worked 2 jobs and because she was a single mom and she did all of this stuff just so that I could have the life that I have. She wasn't balanced because she didn't get to spend the time that she needed for free time and stuff like that. And she was kind of going on about that. And I thought, yeah, I understand that. I see that with my students that are coming maybe from single parents where life isn't balanced. And it can be very difficult. And yet she's also celebratory because she got to have the experiences that she had because of even though her mom was unbalanced. But in a way that unbalanced brought balance for her kids, right? She was doing something that needed to be done. So I applaud all of you parents out there and people trying to raise children where you don't necessarily have a balanced life, but you're trying to create more balance for the ones that you're raising. So hats off to you on that. And I sincerely mean that. I said I was currently teaching 6th grade science, and we are now studying right now actually Earth's ocean, atmosphere, and climate. And again, I'm struck with the idea of balance when you think about the climate, because our climate is changed. Our climate has always changed, first of all. So that was one the kids look back and like, oh, there was a period where the Earth was a big snowball, And then there was a period where in the North Poles, there was alligators swimming in the tropics, And so the Earth has fluctuated depending on if there's too much from the volcanoes, right? That dust in the atmosphere that kept out the sun, or different things that have happened that have caused these different climate changes. We just know that right now we're discussing that it's more rapid than maybe we're expecting. But again, when you think about that, it's about balance. When you think as the climate changes, we're becoming out of balance with how we have life right now. And as it changes, the balance is going to change in order for it to survive. So it may not be survivable by humans. I don't know. I know we can fix it because my kids are doing experiments and we're finding out if we get rid of this and we add more of this, it makes a difference. We can actually cool the earth back down. So there is stuff out there that can be done. Just depends on whether we want to put our money and time into that, right? And it has to be a worldwide thing. I'm not getting political, I'm just saying. So balance is necessary. So again, as a mother, the idea of balance, and I do believe it's wonderful if a mother can be balanced to make sure that you are taking care of your needs. And I love that, actually, when I look back at my mom, the fact that she would take time to read. She also liked to garden. And I think, okay, she had time to do those things as well as these mothering things. And so I saw her doing things that she enjoyed as well as the working part. So, powerful mothers, strategic like the wolf, balanced like Mother Earth. So now I'm going to look at me for a little bit. I eventually became a mother. And my son just turned 31 yesterday. He's 6'6". I grew him big. I don't know if I had anything to do with that, but he grew big. And although I learned a lot of skills from my mother, I did something very strategic and vital to be a better mother for myself. Something that a wolf can't do and Mother Nature can't do. I picked up a book and I read it. It was called What to Expect the First Year. Great book. And then they have one, What to Expect the Next Couple, or the second year, or whatever. There's a What to Expect when you're expecting, same thing. I picked up a book and I started to read. And in this book, I learned about that first year of a child and how formative that is, and that how you parent helps develop their social and emotional development. It's crucial for how well they do in life later. And that if I could nurture that child in a certain kind of way, they would have a better self-esteem, a better sense of confidence, a trust that people aren't going to leave them. They wouldn't have these abandonment issues. I got excited about being a mother because then I realized mothering isn't about keeping the house clean. I mean, it's nice. I love a clean house. I do really like a clean house. I don't necessarily like cleaning it, but I do like a clean house. But the mothering really was it's more focused on the social, emotional, and cognitive development of your children. And that all of a sudden got me excited because that was like a purpose. That was a bigger thing than just making sure that, the toys were picked up and put back into the box. And so I got excited about being a parent, so much so that I started reading more books. This is early on too, because I worked with junior high and high school kids my whole life. I knew what to do with them, but those little ones, what do you do with this? I don't know. So I thought I need to read, right? Because I don't want to screw it up. Everyone says you have two funds for your child when they're growing up. You have the college fund and you have the therapy fund. Because you're hoping they go to college. If not, then they can just put that extra money into the therapy fund. But no matter how good you are, you've messed something up and they're going to have to go to therapy some way or another. Exactly. So I picked up another book called Love and Logic, which some people know about, but it was an idea of how you discipline, and I hate the word discipline, but it's how you work with a child on trying to change or correct behavior. I hate to get away from, when I think discipline, I think of punitive, and I think that whole idea of punitive parenting needs to go out the window. How can I be a nurturing parent that guides my child where it's the best for my child to go? So this Love and Logic, you're looking at a behavior and you want to change the behavior. Here's something that you would do that matches it so that it encourages them to make changes in their choices. So I love this book. And so I had this son that wanted, when he was about 2 years old, we lived up in Montana, he wanted to just scream in the car. Now, I don't know if he was trying to get attention or whatever it was, but it's like, okay, we're in a little car and he's screaming. So me and his father had made this little plan, what we were gonna do next time he screamed. So we're driving out in the middle of Wyoming, nowhere in Wyoming, which is most of Wyoming, but it's beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. He decides to scream. I'm like, okay, we pulled on our plan. We pulled the car over. We got out. We said, you're screaming, so we're going to get out of the car. So we got out of the car and we stood outside the car. Maybe 30 seconds, because to him it's going to feel like forever, right? I don't need to, we talk a little bit like, yeah, like we're having a good time. He can't hear us. We're just like, yeah, okay, do you think it's time to go back? I think we can go back now. Okay, we'll go back. So then we get back in the car and our son's sitting back there. He never screamed again in the car. And I'm like, oh, I love this, because it was just a natural thing. Like, no, whatever he's looking for attention or whatever. No, he totally got something different than what he wanted. And we didn't have to yell at him or, nothing. That was it. The other thing he's very tactile, right? Very high kinesthetic learner. So he liked to touch everything. So at 2 years old, when we're walking through Safeway, he decides the big jug of syrup looks interesting on that bottom shelf, right? Because it's heavy. So they put the little ones up top, the big. So he pulls it off. It's glass. It hits the ground. Syrup everywhere, right? I'm thinking, okay, let's just get some help, because we don't have to. And that was the other thing in the book. You don't have to respond or react at the time at all. It's like, oh my gosh, we got a mess. We call the people. They come clean it up. I keep him away so he's not getting glass on us. Doesn't touch the glass. So then I go and we put it back in the car, and I'm like, okay, now I've got the plan, because I already kind of have had a plan in place, because he tends to touch everything when we go shopping. So I drive to the bank. Now at the bank is really cool, because when you go into the bank and your mom does something at the bank, you get a sucker, right? So what I do is I drive up, and it's on a Saturday, so the bank's not even open, but he doesn't know that, right? So I drive up, and I'm gonna go in just to the main room and get some money out of the cash machine, because there's the foyer, right? And then you go into the main bank. He doesn't know anything. He just knows that I'm going to go, you know what? Because you can't keep your hands off of things when we're in the store, you will not get to go into the bank. And so you won't get a sucker today. So I get out of the car and I lock it, and it's, Montana, Mild City. There's nobody there. So there's not an issue if someone just nabbed my kid, but it's locked. I walk in to the big doors. I stand in there and grab some cash. I walk back out. He doesn't know what I've done and how long I've been in there. It's like, he's 2, right? So I come back in and I get down and I get back in the car and I re-explain it. I got my money, blah, blah, blah. And this time you didn't get a sucker. Then I drive down to the donut store. Cruel mom that I am. I had to get some copies made. It was a copy store and a donut store. So I'm going to get copies, but every time I go to get copies, we stop and get donuts. So I said, okay, now I need to get some copies. But because you cannot keep your hand, you have not been able to keep your hands yourself when we go in the stores, you get to stay in the car. I'll lock you in, but I'm gonna go in and get my copies. But we're not gonna get donuts today. So I go in and I get my copies. I come back out and get in the car and we drive off. He's missed out on a sucker and he's missed out on a donut. We're going to the little JCPenney store, and I say, which is mostly just clothes. So I'm not worried about anything breaking. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go in here because if we want to go look at blah, 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 do you want to try to come in and not touch things? Oh, yes. So he gets out of the car and walks in, and we walk through JCPenney's and back. Didn't do a thing except walk through JCPenney's and back. He doesn't touch a thing. So then I'm like, oh, okay, let's see if this really works. I want to go across the street to the knick-knack store where you can find breakables. I go, let's go over here because there's always fun stuff over there. And he's like, okay, yeah. So we walk over there, and I'm just hoping this is going to work, right? So we walk in and we walk around. I'm looking at things. He doesn't touch a thing. Did not touch a thing. I didn't have to use much of that book after that, because he pretty much, if I said something, he started, following up on things. He was pretty smart. It's pretty cute, except for when he was a teenager. Now, the thing that they always say about teenagers, how they're horrid. So when he was 12 years old, going to about turn 13, he just comes to me and he goes, Mom, I don't want to be a teenager. And I'm like, why? Because they're so rotten. And I'm like, oh, and this is when I was a single parent at the time too, so you're trying to comfort it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no. There are teenagers that do choose to be unruly, however you want to put that, but not all no, that's a choice you get to make. You don't have to be that way, and you don't have to, and however you be is going to be fine. And we had this little talk, and so then he could enjoy his 13th birthday, but he just was stressing out coming up, like, all of a sudden I'm going to turn 13 and I'm going to turn into a miserable, mean kid, No, my kid is never, yeah, that is not his personality. But we moved to Washington. He was in the 9th grade. He's going to high school, a new high school. And we were sitting around eating dinner, and I said something like, okay, so your chores for today is, I want you to dust the house. Oh man, I don't want to dust the house. Okay, then you can dust the house and vacuum. Do you think he ever whined about his chores again? No, he did not. And I just think those things are just, when you can find out things like that you can do as a mother, as a parent, right? As you're raising something that is like, there is no punishment. There's no like, why are you always whining, right? When he was little and he didn't like the food, I've had parents just stress, oh my God, he doesn't like the food. I just go, you know where the cereal drawer is? And I put the cereal down on the bottom cupboard and the milk on the lowest layer, lowest in the refrigerator. So it's like, oh, I just don't want you to like whine about it. If you don't like it, just you don't like it, go get your own cereal and your milk, pour it up, and you've got your own meal. And I didn't have to redo anything, right? Smart. You're thinking like, okay, I wonder how that kid turned out. So far he hasn't, well, he did have some issues, like would think about therapy, but it was really wonderful that he came to me as when I was a single parent, and he came to me and told me about how he'd experienced some of the stuff when I was going through all my depression and things from the divorce. And we cried together, and I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry that came over, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, if this is the therapy you're getting off good. But at some point I'm guessing he's going to end up in other therapy, but we don't know. But I'm happy to say he is a professor at Columbia University. He's married to a wonderful woman that's from England, and and he has a fabulous relationship with both me and his father. So I mean, he's a phenomenal kid, and so I feel blessed. I'd say, okay, some of the mothering was good, but then when I was single from when he was 11 on, I was 5 of those years I was going through such emotional stuff, trying to protect him from that and take care of my needs, but I obviously didn't do that as well as I wanted. His dad showed up on my doorstep, who lived in Texas at the time, and I was in Washington, and all of a sudden, ding dong, and I answer the door, and it's his dad. Well, I wasn't expecting you here. And he comes in, and we have a conversation about how, our son wants to go live with him because I'm depressed and it's hard and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard, but he's not going to live with you. We're going to figure out how to make this work, because that's not how you get to go. It's like, oh, this is hard, so I'm running away. And so we had to make some adjustments and deal with that. But I don't know if that was the best thing to do. I'm just saying that as a parent, there was some hard stuff, but I'm all about trying to find that balance, right? Trying to advocate for what is the best for everybody, and how we can all learn and work together. I knew that if he left at that soon, that wasn't gonna work for me at all. He ended up leaving for his junior and senior year though, and going to live with his dad. But that was something we had worked out, and that worked out for the whole family. So to be a mother, to be able to be strategic, to be able to focus on the social, emotional, and cognitive, I like that too. It's the brain development, right? Of your child or children, to be able to work towards balance within your own life and balance for your child's life. I love to see the balance in my son, how he's teaching, right? But like, he also takes time to go to the gardens, or he takes time to go play volleyball, and you see him trying to create this balance that fits for him. And his wife does the same thing. It's a beautiful thing. So I am actually going to close with a song. I've written some children's songs, so I'm going to sing you a couple children's songs. I'm going to do one, and then And then I'm going to do a meditation, and then I'll move into the second one. But because part of mothering is having children, so we're going to have children's songs. This one is called How Silly. If you go to my YouTube channel, which isn't that much of a thing, but it does at least have some, I think it does have a couple of these songs on here because I made videos with them. So the videos to this is pictures that were actually drawn by one of my high school students. And so he drew pictures. This is called How Silly. What if a cow mows while it moves? What if a sheep bathes while it baths? What a world this would be to hear. What a world this would be. What if a horse knits while it neighs? What if a duck quilts while it quacks? What a world this would be to hear. What a world this would be. Cows mow, sheep bathe. What you think of that? A horse knits, a duck quilts. How silly is that? What if a dog bakes while it barks? What if a cat pours while it purrs? What a world this would be to hear. What a world this would be. What if a hen clinks while it clucks? What if a pig sorts while it snorts? What a world this would be to hear. What a world this would be. Cows mow, sheep bathe. What you think of that? A horse knits, a duck quilts. How silly is that? How silly is that? How silly is that? So let's move into a time of meditation. Get yourself comfortable and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And just focus your attention on your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in the balance of Mother Earth. Breathing in the power and the compassion of Mother Wolf. And as you continue to just let those things permeate all of you, the balance, the power, the compassion. And then also your cognitive sense to nurture the social, emotional, and cognitive development of others. Just bring all that together. I want to put it in a ball that you can just kind of hold, or you can put it within yourself and just feel it move through your bloodstream, through your breath. And in that moment, I want to say I'm grateful for you and the parenting role that you played for anyone, whether it was pets, whether it was children, whether it was school kids you worked with, or the neighborhood kids, or your grandkids, however you're playing that role. Whether it's at your church, that role of nurturing someone else, creating balance for someone else. And I want you to identify either somebody that you love that you are in connection with, or yourself for this meditation. So pick yourself to do some mothering of yourself, or to pick somebody else that you want to visualize doing some mothering for. So pick something, somebody. It could be a pet as well. Could be plants. But pick something that's important to you that you want to focus mothering on. hold that person or that life, whether it's yourself, a plant, an animal, or a person, hold that in your hands for just a second, and in your nurturing hands that say, I am holding you, I am supporting you, I am here for you. Something that person, that thing, that plant, that animal, that you're, or yourself, that you're holding, what is that person? Can you see that person needs? What is a need? How can you meet that need? What is something you can do? You don't have to fully meet that need, but what is one thing that you can do to support that person, that life? What can you give? Some of your power, some of your nurture, a sense of balance, a lesson, a loving lesson, an ear to hear. I'm just going to leave it quiet for a second. I'm going to play the piano while you just kind of let that move around within you and see what you can come up with. See yourself giving that to that life that you're holding. What do you want to say? What do you want to do? See yourself doing that for the person, saying that to the person, to that life. When you feel satisfied with having given that gift, return back to the room. Bring your consciousness back to the room. I've got a nice tummy for patting, great back for scratching, corny jokes for catching, oh-dee-doo-dah-day. I've got a neat nose for squishing, cool pits for tickling, cute toes for nibbling, oh-dee-doo-dah-day. Love me, well love me through and through. Love me, I love you. I've got two strong shoulders for shrugging, long arms for hugging, big eyes for bugging, oh-dee-doo-dah-day. Love me, well love me through and through. Love me, I love you.